Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau, video producer and a Christian. Today I'm looking at the paper here on shelter's suit weighs religious versus foster kids' rights. This is really an ongoing battle across our country as our cultural views change. Before we start, like and comment on my video and subscribe to my channel. That'd be terrific. Keep our conversations going. Locally, I live in the San Diego area, and Escondido is the town north of San Diego. And there's a 6-bed shelter of a refurbished home on 2 acres of land that's been readied as a house for sex-trafficked teen girls. And it's been ready since 2017 to receive these girls. But it's held up on an argument, religious-based argument, as the facility is called or run by the Children of the Immaculate Heart, which is a Catholic non-profit organization that has had success at doing this and wishes to get started with the one they have, since it's already cost them $600,000 to build it and about $11,000 a month for the rent. Whew. Anyway, so the argument rages on, as it does across the country, for multiple issues. The state has found certain parts of their application objectionable, and there's 2 in particular. The state says they are required to drive teen victims to abortion clinics if they want, and to LGBTQ affirming activities if they want. And this sets up the legal battle between this Catholic organization and the state. Now, faith-based government licensed facilities should balance the freedom of the practice of the religion and personal rights of minors, and that's where the argument's at. California has made a concerted effort to reaffirm the rights of foster youth over the past few years. In 2016, litigation accused a Fresno foster organization of denying access to sexual health services over the same argument. The lawsuit adds ongoing religious protection debates, and that has been going on across the country, as many of you may have heard. One example they give in here is the bakery. The Masterpiece Cake Shop case at the U.S. Supreme Court was taken on, and that had to do with the baker refusing to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple based on their religious beliefs. And I'm pretty sure most of you have heard these stories that have been going on. The justices in the Supreme Court found that the State Civil Rights Commission had discriminated against the baker on religious grounds and improperly ruled against him. The opinion did not, however, get at the heart of the issue surrounding anti-discrimination laws in the First Amendment. So the argument moves on, waiting for other cases to get to the Supreme Court to make these big decisions. Now, when you're dealing with foster youth, I would expect that's far more critical, because you're dealing with minors who have more than likely psychological problems, much more complicated. And with girls, you have issues, of course, with pregnancy, or can have, sorry. Now, the justices found that the State Civil Rights Commission had discriminated, and the opinion did not, however, answer the question. Now, the higher court is still deciding whether to hear another case that asks whether a Catholic foster agency contracted in Philadelphia can refuse to place children with LGBTQ parents. That's another issue that is working its way through the courts. Now, bed space set aside specifically for trafficking victims in the county is behind or short in short supply. So it's more difficult than serving adults because adults are more afforded to have their own opinions and carry on their own care to some extent. In 2015, the nonprofit began the process of opening a program tailored for trafficked youth, the Escondido facility. They were going to serve 13 women and 18 children in various locations across the county. Now, in 2015, the nonprofit began the process of opening the facility, and they're going to call it the Refuge. Now, many of these girls are runaways from the foster care system. They've already been in the system and just working their way through it just to survive, I suspect. The girls can stay for up to 2 years, so they can have the best opportunity for healing into society, quoting the school. Schooling, job training, various types of therapy, healthy family-style care, because it would serve the girls who are unable to return home to a parent or guardian. That's their main thrust here. And who have they also could have complex psychological behavior needs not suited for typical foster placement. So it's a specific place that this organization fits. So the licensing argument goes on. The specific license for such programs was created in 2015. The requirement subjects the nonprofit to scrutiny not experienced by adult shelters. The Refuge has an endorsement of District Attorney Summer Stephan, who called Children of the Immaculate Heart a strong partner. Constant presence in the fight against human trafficking. In 2017 letter to the state, she argued the department to issue the license. So on that goes. Regulations and roadblocks. The nonprofit submitted a 300-page application to the state in June of 2018, and they say after navigating Byzantine regulations, bureaucratic roadblocks for 3 years. And they also made a motion for a temporary restraining order of a 90-day deadline for a response from the state. Several points they called out as deficiencies from the state. Then a year further back and forth. So back and forth goes the argument. Now here's the argument from the state. They need to describe how the shelter would ensure transportation to LGBTQ programs or procedure for dispensing transition-related medication for transgendered youth, according to the lawsuit. The state also said the nonprofit did not provide an explanation or procedure to ensure youth aren't discriminated against on sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. The nonprofit argues that it adequately addressed its non-discrimination policy and added that there's no rule requiring such caregivers to administer transgender medication. Now, based on the state's inaction and responses, the assumption seems to be that because the charity is Catholic, it will discriminate against LGBTQ youth. Licensing officials also had a problem with the nonprofit mission statement emphasizing restoring victims and their relationship with Jesus Christ. So that argument goes on. The state has argued that how would they know whether they had lost their faith and should not assume that they have. So back and forth. Now this organization is arguing that they have provided other alternatives for this transportation. What they would have to do is have someone else to do it. So there it goes. That would be their argument. They would find a way to allow these girls to make their own decision, but someone else would have to facilitate it, but this organization would have to have a way to facilitate it to someone else. This argument goes on, and many others. Utah has one. One of the arguments was you couldn't just tell a 14-year-old to get an Uber and go to get an abortion. So they have to have an actual physical program laid out to do that. So as our culture changes from what some would say is a Christian culture to a more secular world, it puts us in conflict. And I don't think the conflict's new, it's just taken different forms, such as slavery in the early years of the country in the 18th and 19th century and before. And they were using biblical arguments for and against in that situation. So in our effort to try to care for broken children, it's become an issue. And some would say we break them further, either direction we go. So sadly enough, the argument goes on. What can we do? One thing, work on having good family relationships. Do the best you can with that. Start with that. My opinion. So anyway, like and comment on the video, subscribe to the channel. Get out there and make it a great day and help someone in trouble. Thank you.